The city of Denver enforced its homeless camping ban on Tuesday by removing makeshift homes and personal belongings near 22nd and Lawrence in downtown. Denver Human Services spokeswoman Julie Smith stated the conditions in which people were living were a risk to public health. Patty, there are a lot of angles to this. Critics came out about how it was done, what resources are available. Take your pick.
Well, let's go back to just over 10 years ago when the Denver's Road Home was introduced, which was supposed to end homelessness in the city in 10 years, and we see how well that's worked out. The focus with Denver's Road Home, the early focus was smart, which is if you can get people into housing, and especially the people who are have mental illness, have real significant problems, so that you can get them the kind of help they need long-term to keep them off the streets, and then for others who have short-term issues, losing jobs, illnesses that cost them, that had their hospital bills go up so high, give them the temporary help they need to get back on their feet. All those were really laudatory goals, and somehow on Denver's Road Home, we lost the way. Up until 3 years ago when we suddenly had this anti-camping ban passed, but without the services we would really need to help people not be on the streets. We were supposed to have more shelters. We were supposed to have more places where people who are mentally ill could go for service. And we were supposed to have a day shelter, which finally opened up this fall. But when it opened without a place people could put their stuff. And that's what really led to the problem we have now. If they couldn't park their stuff, they would stay with their stuff. They can't they can't be on the mall. They've been rousted from the bike paths in different places. And there's nowhere for a lot of these people who are mentally ill and are choosing to be on the streets to go. So somehow sweeping them off the streets and taking their stuff or throwing away their stuff doesn't actually seem like it is going to solve the problem ultimately. Out of sight is not going to be out of mind here.
David, does the fact that the city had to send in so many different folks to make it seem like such a major sweep point to a bigger problem?
Well, it points to the number of people who were there, and so how much government action was necessary to deal with it. I would, first of all, defer to Patty's expertise on this issue, but also say that the Denver Post editorial board had a different take, and as they explained it, the mayor had been very careful about this and really dotting every I and crossing every T before acting, including making sure that there was shelter space available for every person who got displaced from this illegal camping area. It's one thing to say, well, if there's no place for them to go, then why just move them from one place to another? On the other hand, if there is some place to go, then the law is clear. You can't be camping and sleeping so as to obstruct public thoroughfares like the 16th Street Mall or other areas.
Ben, should the best city to live in America be doing more about the problem?
Absolutely, we should. And David, there aren't enough places for people to go, and if we just believed everything we read in the newspaper, I've got some property in New York I'd love to talk to you about. We have fundamentally punted on this issue over and over. Patty alluded to the mission of the Denver Road Home, which has failed. This administration has supported the camping ban, which effectively made homelessness illegal in the city. The University of Denver, about a month ago, released a report that studied all the different camping bans and similar policies enacted by municipalities across the state, and found uniformly that the policies were expensive and not productive for the cities. I think that this action certainly may have felt necessary because it is an eyesore, but the reality is that we are trying to sweep this under the rug, and it's just another example of this administration trying to do the right thing but totally failing.
Lisa, where should the city government specifically be on this issue?
Well, I think they're going to have to sort of revisit what the road home was and sort of try to put into place some actual strategies that can address the variety of there's a diversity in the homeless population, and and I think that calling it a community is one of the ways to make it sound like one thing when it is in fact a diversity of people making choices. And I love that Patty mentioned sort of the notion of like people with stuff, right? Stuff is like one of the things that we think all of us have a right to. I mean, we may, okay, we're like backing off on this idea that you can have a right to like a place to live, but there's sort of this sense of like how people feel connected to stuff. I was disappointed in the Post editorial to some degree because I thought it didn't acknowledge some of the things that really needed to be acknowledged about sort of why people make the choices they make, and also it maybe not criminalizing, but sort of sweeping away things, is to sort of not make real gestures towards what's going on in this city. I mean, if you have a city that's sort of developing the way it is right now with this boom, this looks very suspicious in some ways. So I think it behooves like the mayor and the city to take more steps to figure out how to address transitional housing versus housing for chronically homeless people that are really not the mentally ill, that are really not going to be able to sort of transition back into what we see as like, affordable life in some way. So.